Thanks very much for helping us to get back to schedule. Actually, now we are back to the normal programming. It's almost 2 o'clock. This was the time we were supposed to start this session in the original program. So thanks very much for helping us to keep to the time. What we are going to do in this session is I'll be putting up a few proposals and invite uh, ideas from the floor. And at the end of the session, we will come up with some recommendations. And Venerable Dhammapiya is also here, our Secretary General. Let's see how we go with the proposals. The first one, just to start off with, yeah. Now, when we look at Buddhist news, there are, as far as I know, three Buddhist news projects which have been implemented for a few years now in Asia. The first is Buddhist Door. Raymond Lam is here from Buddhist Door, which is out of Hong Kong. Then the Buddhist Channel, which is out of Singapore. Out of Malaysia. Lim Koi Fong is here. I think he's still on his way from downstairs. And the other is one I set up, Lotus Communication Network, where I have developed a Lotus Features project, where the feature stories since the beginning of 2016 have been syndicated around the world through Berlin-based ID and in-depth news. So it goes to all the UN agencies in New York and Geneva, a number of international NGOs, and also many newspapers and magazines. In fact, and also part of the Lotus Communication Network is, it's like I'm not producing everything. I'm trying to network among Buddhist media people, their productions. Then there is a YouTube channel called Lotus Comnet, which is more mainly documentaries done by Buddhist producers. A number of them are mine. There's a couple from Rajiv Mehrotra, who was here yesterday. And the other one is called Lotus Talks. These are talks by not only monks, but also lay Buddhists, where the talks are edited down to 10, around about 6 to 12 minutes. And there's one panel discussion I recorded in Cambodia 2 years ago, which is longer, which is about 35 minutes. It's with two senior monks and two Cambodian academics looking at the remarkable revival of Buddhism since the Pol Pot years in Cambodia. So these are also meant to be used as resource material in tertiary institutions or even high schools to be used in classrooms. So I'm trying to build up this network, and I'm inviting people to contribute to it. So with the tree, with Buddhist Door, Buddhist Channel, and Lotus Communication Network, I'm sure we'll be talking after this conference about how we can network among ourselves to make all three networks more visible, both in Asia as well as outside Asia. Next one. Yeah, this one is what Rajiv Mehrotra wanted to present yesterday, but he ran out of time. So I'll just quickly give you the idea of what he's trying to do. It's a documentary film series he wants to produce called The Ways of the Buddha. And it's a mini series that will reflect the continuing vitality and relevance of Buddhism. Like he says, there's 14 countries that are Buddhist majority in Asia. The Buddhists are represented in 52 nations in all, 500 million people worldwide follow the religion that began in India. The treatment, how he wants to look at it, is it's a set of programs which will be produced to best international standards. As you know, those who are from India, Rajiv Malhotra is a well-known documentary maker and a television personality here. And he needs the active participation of people in Asian Buddhist communities and countries around the world. Because it's mainly because he wants to get away from this Western narrative when they do on Buddhism. There are some good programs which have been done by Western TV networks, but often it doesn't come from the grassroots itself, from the voice of the Asian people. So this is the idea to do the series to the voice of Asian people. And he would like television stations in the Asian Buddhist countries in Asia to be partners in this project, where they could give him ideas on the development of script for that particular country. People he could interview to get the Buddhist voices, how the communities could be represented. Even filming during festival times could be, and that nuances of Buddhism as a living religion in these countries should come out through the perspectives of the Asian Buddhists themselves. Now, he says that he's already got the money. He's not asking for money from anyone. He has mobilized almost $500,000 for the series. And all those TV stations who get involved in Buddhist countries, in return, now they would also would have to help in filming the series in their own country, and hosting the director and maybe one of his associates. And in return, you will get the right for the whole series free of charge to be shown in your country, in your television network. So if you're interested, either through me or directly, you can contact Rajiv, or you can let me know and I will put you in touch directly with him. So it's not an IBC project, but he's encouraging people here to be involved in the project. Now, the next proposal, which I will invite views and from the participants here, it's a proposal to set up a Asian Buddhist community television network. It's something a friend of mine who owns an IT company in Singapore. He's a Sri Lankan Buddhist living in Singapore. He owns an IT cybersecurity company, and he will be providing the platform for the project, and Lotus Communication Network, myself, would be involved in creating the contents or networking to get the contents in there. So I'll just explain briefly the structure we are looking at. So I don't know how many of you are familiar with IPTV. It's a simple transmission methods. You don't need satellites, and you don't need transmitters. So it's a very cheap way to set up a television network. But the thing is, to access it, you need to have access to high-speed broadband. So that would be a problem at other end in some countries where you don't have access to high-speed broadband. So because there are no antennas or satellite dishes needed. Now, components of this project. Now, there are 4 segments I'm looking at to establish the platform. One would be cultural programs, anything between 3 to 15 minutes, like some of the clips we saw earlier today could become part of this network. The Dhamma MTV is 3 to 6 minutes musical clips like the one I launched today. News features are anything between 30 seconds to 3 minutes using this Mojo or mobile journalism principle, using your iPhones to film, which is a cheaper way than having camera crews. And we would also, hopefully, if we get enough funding together, do some training in different countries to create a pool of contributors. Or some of your television channels could also contribute news features. And the other one could be segments where we do interviews, not necessarily in studios, anything between 3 to 10 minutes, similar to Lotus Talks, but it's more interview based, not talks. So these are the segments we are looking at. And we want to use what is called the iPlayer platform. This is something BBC has developed. And I have just done a sort of a sample of what it could look like the cultural programs. You will see one of the clips I have is one of your clips. In the Dhamma MTV, the music clips. There's already, when I did some research on YouTube, there's lots of Buddhist songs, Dhamma songs in YouTube. So it's of course a matter of working out which are authentic, and you also have to be careful that about misrepresentation. So there could be, we would also have to form a pool of people who can, when we are in doubt, who can check and see if it's in sync with the real Dhamma. The news features and interviews. So that would be the platform. Now, the platform could be created under the categories, or it could also be created under TV stations. Maybe we can have a page like that for Thai PBS or something, or the Buddhist channel from Sri Lanka, or Derana from Sri Lanka, whoever wants to get involved in the project. Like most of these TV stations would have their own YouTube platform. Now, what we are offering is a regional platform where on your YouTube platform, if you're a Sri Lankan television channel, it could be Sri Lankans who would link to it in Sri Lanka outside. Same with Thais. So here we hope that being a regional channel, there would be people from other countries linking into your programs from other countries. Because it's video, we can also get over the language barrier by subtitling. That's first I was thinking of a podcasting radio network, but then we come across the problem of the language barrier. The economic model, actually we can start it straight on because my friend Sujiva, who runs the TV company, is willing to set it up for free for us, the platform. And if I coordinate it, I could also do it on a volunteer basis at the beginning. And then if other stations are willing to provide their material, we can start it even tomorrow or next week, okay, without any funds. But for the long-term viability of it, I feel that we need to set up a fund to have some money with us to even to pay for specially commissioned material we may need. One of it would be idea, like people was also saying to me this morning about what IPBSC was thinking for Vesak in May, to do a special series, a cultural series from different countries to mark Vesak. Now, I would also propose that we can create this platform as a in association with IBC. So that, of course, we have to go through your governing board. So that could be also something we can consider. Okay, I think that's, yeah, that's it. So now it's open for comments, how you could contribute to it, how we can get it off the ground. So it's over to you now. Okay, what about? So, shall I start with some comments from people of what you think about it from Thai PBS?
Thank you. And first, I would like to say that the proposition is really it's go along with our policy because we're interested in um, increasing the kind of regional network. Started out with that, either it be on the civil society side or even on the philosophical side. I would like to look at the Asian Buddhist community television. It's both civic and philosophical, and the way that since you're going to do it on the internet, that even make it more easier. What will be interesting for the Thai PBS is that we also have Buddhist TV station in Thailand that might be able to form a network of content or even, I don't know, even participate in the fundraising, the 50 USD dollars that you mentioned about. Because as we all know, I don't know, but one lady came up to me and said, well, the Buddhist situation in Thailand is pretty bleak, isn't it? And I can testify that it is so. So that's why I mentioned to you this morning that I think it's part of our national agenda. Thai PBS is not funded by government, but we look at ourselves as a public organization, and one of our missions is to bring back the faith and the understanding of Buddhism, and this can be part of the venue. What is really interesting from the 2 days is that uh, the notion that we should be able to not not only revere the religion but be critical and look deeper and make reassessment of the value, which is in Thailand, I think it's badly needed if we're going to continue to see it's prospering in the future. So, in short, we are interested. We have network of TV people that be able to produce some local content. We might be able even to help with the technology because I'm alone. Actually, Thai PBS is quite large, and we have the sector that really invests totally on new media and transmedia. So that can be our next step. So this is I don't know whether for you this is a kind of response that you needed.
Yeah, it's sort of. I was also thinking about you have your Thai PBS Academy,
Right.
and you yourself have done training in Mojo journalism, mobile journalism.
Yes.
Maybe both you and the academy can come together and conduct workshops in third countries.
That is
either we
very
bring them
possible.
to Bangkok or you go there, depending on the funding.
It can be both ways, and we can take care of ourselves as far as sending staff, developing the curriculum. You have done that already, but maybe the country to visit can play the role of the host for the trainees to come, and we pay for our own staff to go to your country. That's a possibility. But our training will be more or less modular, which focus on equipping simple storytelling skill, which of course when you do storytelling you have to be mindful to the general public, so it won't be highly technical kind of training. I don't think it's needed anyway.
Yeah, because I was thinking of the Mojo journalism principle because it's cheap, and we could also train community-based video producers. For example, I was thinking of Laos, Lao University and Tuangyo, the groups you have been community groups. We can train together, maybe with Thai PBS coming to Laos, train a group of people to contribute material to the network. We have Rupahini here. No, from Rupahini we don't have. From Sri Lanka. What about Derana? We have from Derana. Yes, no one from Derana. Maybe the Buddhist channel, Professor. Yeah.
Thank you, Kalinga. My case, I'm thinking about it. I saw this, your proposal, but the main thing is in the Buddhist TV in Sri Lanka, we broadcast 9 sermons. These are all 1 hour programs. So then we repeat it, so it will be 18 hours. And only in your case, I saw it is between 3 to 6 minutes. News, it's like news clips or something like that. So personally, I like it. So I can produce that type of thing, very limited amount, but everything I have to put it into the director board in Sri Lanka. So, the Buddhist TV media director board. So if they approve, then definitely I can help in that direction.
Yeah,
So-
because what we are trying to get away with this project is monks on front of camera speaking for 1 hour.
Yeah,
That's what we would like the monks to speak, but for 6 minutes or something, because people lose attention after that. Or
Yeah.
else we package that message through some other form of media. It could be a news feature, could be a musical clip, it could be even a short drama or something.
Kalinga, the problem is when you take a Buddhist sutra, so if you cannot edit it or something, it will be 1 hour they taken. So it's if you edit it, then everything will be lost. So
Yeah, I don't know now if
doing
you
the-
can take a sutra in Pali, subtitle it, and put other pictures in between. Would it be offensive? I don't know if you, whenever you can comment on that. You take a sutra which may go, chanting would go for 15 minutes or so. It's in Pali, but we subtitle in English for international audience and put some pictures to go with it, like that song clip. Would that be seen as offensive?
In the sutra or something.
Sutra, if you give that treatment to sutra for the television channel.
Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Karaniya matte kusalene yantang sandam padang abhisamicca. Sakkho ujuca sujuce soco casya mudu anatimani. Santusya koca subharoce appakincoce sallaukavuti. Santindriyoce nipakoce appakambho kulisu ananubuddho. Nachakuddang samachare kinciyena vinyo pare upadeyung. Sukino vake mino hontu sabbi santa bhavantu sukitanta. Ye kechipana bhutanti tata vata varava anavasisa. Diga vai mahanta va manjima ranta kanu katula. Dittha vaiva additta ye cha dhore vasanti avidhore. Bhutava sambhavisi va sabmi danta bhavantu sukitanta. Naparo paranyupumete nati manyete katyatinang kanji. Vyarosana patikasanya nanya manyasya dukkha Mata yata niyam puttang ayusa eka putta manurakhe. Evampi sabba bhutesu mana sambhavaye aparimanang. Uddhang adocha tiriyanche asambadang avirang asepattang. Titthan charan nisinno vasayano ayavatasya vigatamiddho. Etang sading aditya bhavatang etang sating aditteya Brahmametang viharang idamaho dittincha anupagamma silava dassanena sampanno kamesu vinaya gedang naijatu gabbasiyang punariti tena satyavanjena sottite hotu sabbada etena satyavanjena sabbarogo vinassatu etena satyavajjena hotu te jaya mangalam.
So now, if we record that and put English subtitles with the meaning and put pictures under your voice to go with it, would that be seen as offensive?
Good.
Hmm? Yeah, that's if we.
No, if it is a Metta Sutta, then I think there should be certain things that will go with the Sutta.
Yeah.
If it is, say, Ratana Sutta, there should be something that will go with that Sutta. I think if it goes, it will be good also. Like, so those who do not understand the meaning of Pali, at least they will have some idea what this Sutta is. I don't think there will be anything to be offensive. I don't think.
That
What I'm talking about is the explanation of all that with all the, stories and everything. So it will take 1 hour to explain what is the meaning of that sutra. So just putting a sutra and translating it into English, not need Sri Lankan, anybody can do that. I mean,
but for pictures to go with it, which
pictures, I don't know, it depends on the
extra
picture. So without looking at, nobody can tell. It's difficult.
That's what we need to work out what could go, which will add to the subtitle, the words, to get the meaning of the sutra across.
In the sutra, there's a line like, just as love as a mother loves his child. We should love the people, all the beings, all the human beings, or all the living creatures. We should love just as a mother loves his child. So we can put some pictures like people from different nations, they're coming together, they're embracing, or they're means establishing some kind of bondage. We can put some such kind of pictures which will suit. It may not be a direct means similarities, but we have some indirect similarities also. We can put these kind of pictures.
Yeah, because this is something sensitive where I have been careful not to use Pali in productions, in artistic productions, because many times I've heard in discussions that it's important to maintain that Pali tradition, the chanting tradition, as part of, especially in Theravada Buddhism, and that by us doing it, singing this in different languages, or though we are trying to put the message across, we may be unwittingly threatening that tradition. So I suppose it's a point of where we come to a balance.
Yes, Dr. Kalinga. I'd like to kind of touch on two things. One is, of course, the Asian Buddhist community. As you know, Asia has variety of languages, and even Buddhism itself. You have Theravada, Mahayana, and within Theravada itself, let's say, example, Thailand, you have your own indigenous religious, they have their own custom practices. Because when we were doing the UNWTO report, we found that, really Buddhism is actually very rich. If you include all these, local beliefs. So it's going to be a challenge to get, content in a language that cut across all communities. You will have a lot of trouble, I think, getting people to communicate in a common platform. Now, it comes to my second point. All right, that's a challenge for you, language. My second point is that you talk about IPTV. I don't know if you know about this thing called Android box. Have you bought an Android box before in Kuala Lumpur or in Singapore?
Yeah, actually, my friend Sujiva, he suggested two things. One is through broadband, the other one is through this box.
The Android box is also
Yeah.
linked to broadband. I have a broadband, 100 megabyte high-speed broadband in my home, and I bought this Android box. Now, a lot of this content inside this Android box is illegal content. This Android box mostly come from China. What they do is very clever. Okay, I can watch your channel in Sri Lanka. Your channel, I've seen your monks talking before. Okay, and Thailand, I have all the channels in Thailand I can watch. What happened is that they have this app that have live TV from every country. So if I click on Thailand, all the Thai TV channels will come out. All right. If I click on Sri Lanka, all the Sri Lanka television will come out, including private television channels. I suggest you talk to your friend. You come up with an app and brand it called Buddhist TV or something like that, and collect from each country all the television channels from Sri Lanka, all the Buddhist channels from Thailand, and whatever channels that is existing in the world, and come up with an app.
Yeah,
Maybe
actually,
your app is called that one. Yeah.
Yeah, he suggested app. He said once we get this platform together, he will design an app.
Yeah.
That means you can, my understanding is you can watch it on your mobile phones.
Everywhere. Watch
Yeah.
on television, HD TV, 4K TV, whatever. You know, it's brilliant actually. But if you do that, you don't have to worry about content building. You just aggregate the content. You are aggregator.
So we can have an app, Lotus IBC television.
Yeah, correct. Yeah.
Legitimate questions. What's a proportion of original content that you intend to make? Like at Thai PBS, when we started out, we did a lot of investment in producing original content. I mean, the things that we design and we fund. But then as time goes by, it turns out that in today's media landscape, it's much better. And since you talk about Mojo, right, most of the content should be produced by the people outside of our operation. We turn to be the curator, to be a promoter of certain, and of course we might have some very, very powerful documentary that we produce it on our own, but it can be only like 5% of the total content. And when taking that kind of technology that he mentioned, you have all these Buddhist venues. The thing is that have to make an MOU with all these stations that they let you use it legally. That's the whole point.
Yeah, because one thing I said about a fund was to commission this type of independent productions, unless people are willing to give it do it for the pleasure of it. Yeah.
Did you have some thought of how you can assure the plurality of the programs? I mean, I should explain a little bit. Even if you do only broadcast or rebroadcast, convey teachings, for instance, even that, you will sooner or later have problem that one school from one country think this is not this is an apocryphic text. Now, let us not even even speak of news. What is Buddhist news? Who says what is Buddhist news? I mean, news regarding Buddhism, okay, but what are the news exactly saying? I mean, imagine you criticize rightly the Western reporting on Myanmar. I fully your opinion, but how do you ensure that this does not that is not conveyed by your program or other things? How do you report about Tibetan event in India if you want to be seen in China, and vice versa? This is the political aspect of the media. This is a very hard nut to crack. And I think if IBC is to be involved in it, and I think, that sounds to me like a good idea, you'll have to do a lot of thinking. And unfortunately, the result of that is mostly that your freedom is strongly, to broadcast what you want, what you like, is strongly limited. And think of small issues between Buddhists in Laos and Vietnam, Laos and Thailand. Yeah, this is problems are everywhere. The more solution you'll find, the more problem you'll have. So I would suggest, from my point of view, it is a good idea from the start to put your what you're going to do on a very broad, to ensure your back by having some kind of broad band, not broadband, but broad bandwidth of people backing you, and make sure that you from time to time broadcast things which are maybe not mainstream, and be ready what happens if the mainstream comes and say, hey, this guy's not a real teacher, or he sleeps with women, everyone knows he does, and all these kind of things. Sorry, I'm disturbed. I'm making it difficult.
I can get your point, because
That's life. Life is difficult.
We come across this very often, and also the Buddhist communities in Asia are very conservative, and sometimes it's a problem when we talk about popular culture and interpreting Buddhism in a way which is not traditional. There are a lot of sensitive issues. Puke knows about problems sometimes they have with the Singapore Film Festival on this type of issues. They have to handle, I think, every year. And I'm sure others who are also organizing things like that would come across. And if we start this, we are going to come across these issues as well. So that's, we have to be aware. And then when it comes up, or we will also have to have some guidelines which we will have to come up with before we start it. So that, Victor.
If I just can throw some ideas about this. Obviously, having a television for Buddhism is excellent. And these days, you can have a television, you can start beaming information to others without investing in the very costly infrastructure because of the technologies that is available. Now, just looking at, of course, it sounds like a good idea, but I think when we say Asian Buddhist community television, maybe we need to fine tune the concept a little bit more, because when we say Buddhist community television, does it mean that the information, that means, are you talking about different channels? Because if it's a community, you would use your vernacular language, your local language, unless you're thinking of you just English throughout. But if you're using vernacular language, different communities of Buddhists will use different languages. And are you like thinking of many channels? Because it's called a Buddhist community. So it means that, you have local community, Sri Lankan community, Laotian community, the Thai community, and because you're using the word Asian, all right? So it's not talking like just one language, like Buddhist channel is just English, information out, all in English. And the second thing is that you have to think about the audience. Who are the ones who are most likely to be the people to watch the TV? And therefore, you need to define the people that is be watching TV. What is the kind of interest? How best to present the information to them? Earlier, you did mention about having 6 minutes. 6 minutes is excellent, because in Malaysia, what I do is I've been running public speaking courses for our Buddhist, and I've been doing that for 32 years. Do you believe that? And as part of the training for the public speaking, in every session, you have to give a complete speech within 2 minutes. You need to have an introduction, you have to develop the ideas, and you have to close it. And if you are, for instance, asked to give a persuasive speech, within 2 minutes, you want to be able to make people move in a certain direction that you want. So having a soundbite, 6 minutes is excellent. But if Bhante have just given us, the Karana Metta Sutta, of course, when you do that, I've also participated in chanting. It'll probably take about 8 minutes to chant that. But if you just listen to the chanting of the Karana Metta Sutta, who is going to listen to the channel? Maybe what you're thinking about is that within the Karana Metta Sutta, you can give commentaries. What is the Karana Metta Sutta about? Why is it important for us to have metta? Very snippets. And our sister was mentioning about the analogy of like a mother would protect her only child. So within 6 minutes, you can actually say how we can develop that loving kindness. Or you can make use of some scientific research to say that as you begin to do metta meditation, certain parts of your brains will be activated. It will be regenerated. So it is possible to have snippets like that. But it might not be useful, for instance, to have like Dhamma Cakkappavattana Sutta, chanting, and who is going to? Obviously, there are audience if you have that. But I think people who want to listen to chanting, obviously there are people. But what is the role of your channel? Who are the people that you're targeting to? And that will actually determine, how the whole thing is positioned. I think we need to give a little bit more thought. But obviously, having more information from the Buddhist side is excellent. But the fine tuning, I think, is we need to fine tune the idea a little bit more.
Yeah. People, there.
I'm just going to throw in, I think what you intended here, this is my guessing, is to creating a platform so that people from Buddhist communities from many parts of the world can just participate in this platform, which is quite different than thinking about having a TV station. I've come from a broadcasting industry, and I know that at one time when we're gonna do a TV station, we talk about the programs, the kind of target audience, so on and so forth. But in the 21st century, that's totally irrelevant. What you're creating is kind of like YouTube, but the content there is exclusively Buddhist and being inspired by Buddhism. That's my understanding. And people can have their own playlists, and the diversity of idea can interact. And of course, we probably have to have certain guidelines, as you mentioned. But for me, to listen to the style of chanting of the same sutra from each country is very, very, very blissful for me. So I think there will be an audience who in search of that. So you have to define quite clearly whether this will be a platform. And I think I kind of agree with my Malaysian friend. If it's a platform, then your point is to create diversity among the Buddhist communities. But if it's the TV station, in a quotation mark, then it's going to be about target audience, what kind of penetration you want, which in today's internet world, it's almost, we at Thai PBS don't even think, well, our word is PBS, Public Broadcasting Service. We think within 3 years, we have to change ourselves to PMS, that's Public Media Service. That means it's involved transmedia. And a lot of, and NHK has already done that. So chances are it's almost pointless to start traditional TV station at this time in media history. I think you're heading toward the right direction with the platform and create diversity, have the locally produced content, but then the language barrier and other things, the details that we have to really overcome. You think about visual as the answer, and the sutra itself is quite universal. So I think that might be a good start. Thank you.
Yeah, actually, I've been reading about the BBC iPlayer platform. From what I gather, what they put up there remains there only for 1 week. Because if you keep on loading it, it will have an impact on the server. There's a limit. So we also, so they change every week. So these are current. So maybe we also probably at the beginning we can look for 4 weeks to have something online. Then we have to update it depending on how frequently we get the material. But my friend said on application it will have much more leeway. But I have no idea how applications work, and so we have to depend on IT people for all that. And the other one is you mentioned about a community. Now I came up with the name Asian Buddhist Community TV because we can call it ABC TV. But I don't know if it's a good idea to call it ABC TV. And the other thing, because I have been involved with community radio for a long time, so I'm looking at this as a community media venture, where once you set up the platform, you have to also link with communities, people in the communities who will be volunteers, who will be promoting the communities. And that's where the mojo journalism comes in, where if you have reports from the communities coming in, then there's others in the communities who start watching it. Once they start watching your own programs, they may also be attracted to watching others. And that's how in Australia I was involved with community radio for 20 years. And that's how we had collectives which produce community radio. Then we link with communities when we go and interview people with the communities, their aunts, uncles, all family members, friends start listening to that radio. So we also have to come with a promotional marketing strategy as well. Yeah.
Yeah. Let me speak from the like a local people from Laos. What I gotta expect from this Buddhist network and ASEAN Buddhist community televisions. What I would like to suggest for the Buddhist new network is that, so as our friends from Malaysia and Thailand has proposed that we have some issue about the, because of ASEAN has diversity in language, culture. So I would suggest that we should have like another channel in the local language. Let's say, for example, you produce some contents in your any channels in our network, but we can translate that into the local language in order to allow the grassroots people, because if we put only in English, only those academic and scholar will understand that. But what about the local people who also want to consume the information about what is it Buddhism? So we can translate that and make it in the local language pages. Then we can send some link to every that's our network, so they can click on that, they can see the languages. And another about the Asian Buddhist community television is that I would like to suggest that we can cooperate with like in Laos we have the Buddhist TV program where the monks they deliver the Dharma and everything that about the Dharma. So we can cooperate with them, but what we should make sure is that it is two-way communication rather than the one way. So the Lao can produce the content and send to our network as well, or I'm not sure if we have the we're gonna create the TV channels for the ASEANs, but we can exchange the contents between the countries, so we can get and reach the wider audience, so they can choose what they want to watch, because like local people they also want to see and produce their own contents, and sometimes they want to watch and to watch another perspective from other country as well. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you. I think you want, yeah, okay.
Yeah, I would like to share some of my experience in the last 5 years. We have created the kinds of e-ASEAN class to empowering the marginal people. So we set up a platform, and then we select the representative from each ASEAN country, and then this representative will be the one that being the portal to select the particular content that the marginal people would like to use it, kind of that. So meaning that the portal, we have the kind of the mentor in the portal to look around, but in each particular ASEAN country they have their own particular person and team and volunteer to work out about the content. So meaning that the content from each particular country will be the participatory action that can be really fit the demand of each particular country. And along the way, each particular country also can socialize and empowering among the region. So that one is very practical. So it's just only the simplified platform, or we call portal, kind of that. But since the project is I'm run out of the budget or something, and then it's die down. So I think that this kind of the advance of technology now, the portal or the platform might be the best solution now.
Okay, thank you. Uh, You want to? Yeah, there. No.
Sorry, just give me a few minutes. I want to add on actually to my presentation just now. One of the things that I face organizing the Buddhist Film Festival is a lack of representation in Southeast Asia. We get a lot of Thai movies because there's an established Thai industry. But I'm actually every edition I'm always looking forward to Vietnamese. Actually, I was hoping to see the Vietnam filmmaker, but she didn't turn up. And maybe for Laos, from Cambodia, we actually really want to feature content from the region as well, because we are in Southeast Asia. Why are all our films all over the world? So I was talking to Mr. Kalinga, and we are actually toying with the idea of a short film competition or something to kind of excite the young to look into making movies or films. But that's eventually. So we wanted to start something like a small film thing and with master classes, and I welcome ideas from everyone on how this can be done, because nowadays actually we can make a small movie or small film with our mobile phone, maybe a 1 minute something, and we become a team and see how it can roll from there. So this is something which we are actually I was actually thinking of bringing up for this conference. Whether or if is anyone already doing it, we're more happy to see how we can support you as well. Yeah.
Yeah, thanks for bringing it up. We were discussing it a couple of weeks ago about asking for entries for 1 to 3 minute short films with Buddhist themes, and maybe we can have a short film festival in Singapore or somewhere, and maybe the first 3 winners would get a ticket to Singapore to attend the festival. So that way, to make young people, even we may put a age limit to encourage young people to do it. Maybe universities can also encourage that. So we are looking at that possibility, and we'll have to find a sponsor. I think we should be able to find a sponsor in Singapore for something like that. So that could be an initiative. And of course, those films will be put on this platform. So
So I think we are going a little bit around in circles because we need clarity on 2 aspects to define 2 things: the process and our definition of community. I can see that we are mixing up basically 3 processes. One is a top-down approach, one is a bottoms-up approach, and one is a 2-way communication process. If what we are talking about is a top-down approach, then we are talking of a channel, a television station, in inverted commas, television station creates contents or collect contents, puts it down to people. Then you have to define what is your target audience, what is the language, what is the geographical spread, and so on. This is a top-down approach. A bottom-up approach would be where the community, because we come to the second level, community, where the people who are producing the content are themselves the audience. And a 2-way process would be people who are producing the content are themselves the audience, but it could be channeled through a central platform. But that is only a facilitating device. When it comes to community, we need to be clear again, because I could say, oh, we are looking at the community of Buddhists in the world. Or I could say we are looking at the community of Buddhists in India. Or I could be very specific and I would say, look, I'm looking at the community of middle class English speaking people in South Bombay. So it's like a neighborhood radio. Now, unless we can do all of this at one time, unless we focus on one type of process and one type of community. When I look at the concept paper, it seems to be more network, worldwide, different countries, and so on. But I'm wondering how you can have a pan-nation many multi-nation network if at the grassroots level there are not already some things happening. So even to build up a top-down process, we need to first have some units at the grassroots level, from which you then make a national network, from which you make a pan-national network. So I think if we focus on this and decide this is the process we want to adopt, and when we say community, this is what we mean. Do we mean neighborhoods? Do we mean cities? Do we mean the whole community of Buddhists in the country? Do we mean by community even non-Buddhists within that community or only Buddhists? Unless we are clear on these things, I think we will go on debating. Because technology and whether you use iPlayer or whether you use the Android box or whether you put up a satellite, all that will fall in place if you know these two aspects, I feel.
Yeah, you have brought up some very important issues. Now, one is also the use of English language as the communication link, which means we are linking with middle class and upper middle class Asians mainly. So that's another issue when we use English. But at least what I thought was we can first at least link with the middle class who can speak English, that type of audience across the region as a start. But then, as you point out, we have to go into the community. When we go into the community, language becomes. Yeah. Yeah, you can argue it's the real communities are down there in the grassroots who don't speak English, and that will be a huge challenge for us to get into. Okay. Yeah. Mm. Okay, so can we? Okay, what?
Korea, how did it go? How did it reach to China? Who translated things to that local language? History tells me when I read that the local Dubhashiya, bilingual people, were able to do their job. So the monk who went from India, learned Korean first and then started talking to them in Korean. The Korean learned in India and translated the language. And that process has not changed. What I'm trying to say that Buddhism as a philosophy, religion, and doctrine had gone that way. Now, if the electronic media has reached to us today, which has a faster rate of instantaneous transmission, do we follow a new methodology or we stick with that? Because there are 5 elements which are required in communication: language specific, region specific, language specific, community specific, then country specific. Then on top of the political issue that was raised by my colleague there is there. Can I translate anything for Tibetan Buddhist in China? I'll be thrown out. If I do the other way around, I'll be thrown out from India. So political issues remain and above all these are economics that we have not talked about it. Where do you get all the funds to do that? So these 5 elements must be taken into consideration. And above all this is only one element which we are forgetting. For whom are you going to do all this? Who needs it? Do we know the need of the lay Buddhists living in Laos or living in Cambodia? What do they want? What do they want to learn from religion? This is all you intellectually I can think and plan it, but that's not the case. We have to go back to the grassroots, look at the history, and then come back to this issue. Thank you.
Okay, thanks. That lady there, okay.
When launching something so ambitious as an Asian Buddhist community television, I really am wondering how come no one has proposed YouTube. I think given limited funds and the question of a truly global, utilizable platform that everyone is familiar with, including everyone who has smartphones, tablets, and the young, I think we need to seriously consider well-established media platforms. These are content creative platforms. Now, anyone who uses YouTube will know that there are plenty of alternative news shows that are getting millions or at least hundreds of thousands of views. and they have upwards of 200,000, 300,000, 400,000 subscribers. The successful ones can go up to millions and millions of views. Now, I think it's as we talked about the top-down and the grassroots. If you do a top-down approach and want to incorporate as diverse a coalition of Buddhists as a village in Laos to a banker's dinner in Central District in Hong Kong, the only thing they have in common is probably either maybe the banker has an iPhone, but someone they're going to have a smartphone, and that's the only way for anyone to create any kind of independent content and communicate easily with the rest of the community that is managing the channel is through a common platform. The top-down approach, I fear, will be extraordinarily expensive, and there'll be a lot of different layers through which a decision to broadcast, to shoot or broadcast or edit or cut a certain video is made. In terms of an Asian Buddhist community television, I would think that using an established platform, doesn't have to be YouTube, because of limited resources and because these platforms have a reliable reputation as truly global platforms that everyone uses. You can, for example, you can appoint a regional community, or even ask for citizen journalism. People send in their content through their smartphones, and you'll have a team of editors and gatekeepers who decide on whether the stuff is appropriate and whether it's feasible to cut it, package it, and put it into a smart little 5-minute video, or I would suggest little more than 10 minutes. No more than, and certainly no more than 15 minutes. I think this is the way digital media is being consumed. It's the direction that I sense all, anyone below millennial, anyone young millennial and below, they're moving towards that. I don't have any, because my only experience is online media. So if you're talking about a broadcasting top down, with the full on, chief executive and several layers of management, I don't have any particular opinion on that. But if you want to get started ASAP without having to wait or lobby too long for considerable financial resources. By the way, a lot of YouTube content creators, they use crowdfunding. Maybe people have heard of this. Patreon has been very successful in capturing a lot of content creators' use. Basically, all you do is appeal to your viewers. If you like our content, then give $1 a month, or $1 a month, as little as that. If you think our work is worth doing, then give as little or as much as you can afford. That's all. If you give us as much as you believe in our work. So I think you don't necessarily gain. You don't necessarily have to give up fundraising because you're using a cheaper platform or a more universal platform. I think you can do both, and a lot of YouTube content creators are doing both, and that's the most accessible. That's the quickest way you can get the project off the ground.
Okay, thanks. Actually, YouTube, even I have got a YouTube channel, and there's many Buddhist YouTube channels, as you know. What we are trying to do is to create a new form of technology which is coming up as iPlayer, and to see if we can bring this, because all these TV stations have their YouTube channels. But if we can create a sort of create a community, which is a challenge like what we have discussed already. We'll have one more from there. Okay. Just one more and then we have to go to the other.
I just want to share a very just sort of short comment. I think lots of been discussed. The idea of, I think, a pan sort of national, pan regional, a pan sort of cross community channel. I think we might have. There's a lot of work in media theory that's already been done. You know, of what doesn't really work or what works. I think it reminds me of the theory of Benedict Anderson of the imagined community and how the media is really, they go really hand in hand with the idea of a nation, a country. So this is why a lot of people, you know, a lot of these cross-border, cross networks usually don't work really well because they somehow fail to understand it's really important to have a very strong, common shared beliefs for these medias to really take off. I mean, the languages and then these politics, these are all very important issues, of course. So I think I really do believe that that participatory sort of local citizen journalism type, might probably work better, and it will also go a very long way in terms of empowering these journalists, community journalists, especially Buddhists, which is already such a small, marginalized sort of sections in these countries, you know, where they don't really get much coverage in the mainstream. So that, I think that sort of model, I think might work a bit better. That's my 2 cents worth.
Okay, thank you very much for all of you. Vichitra, you have been taking. So can we end this segment? We agree that there is interest in it, but we have to think about how to structure it. So we will think about it. Ashok, myself, Venerable Dhammapiya, and others will have a discussion, some communication over the next couple of weeks and see if we can develop a common proposal which is workable, and we'll share it with you through the internet. Okay, the last proposal is about Nalanda Arts and Cultural Festival, which is a proposal I submitted to Asoka some time ago, and which has been sort of on the board for some time. But of course, it's a matter of okay. Let's. It's what we call Nalanda Arts and Music Festival. It's what is proposed is an annual Buddhist cultural festival to be held in Nalanda, and IBC and Navanalanda Mahavihara University would coordinate and organize it. That's a suggestion or proposal. Possible funding for at least the first 3 years may come from the Indian government and foundations. Funding from overseas may also be explored. A festival to be held in Nalanda for 3 years to get the branding, and it may shift to other countries on annual basis after that. Now, the aims and objectives are that because, as we have discussed over the last 2 days, that many young people from Buddhist families are drifting away from Buddhism because it's not cool enough for them. And then also they see many of the Buddhist practices and rituals as superstition. Anyway, we have discussed all this before. So what we are trying to do is to create arts and music festival in Asia with Asian Buddhist artists to create some repackaging of Buddhism maybe, and also to share cultures between Asian countries. Now, there are some contemporary examples of this type of arts we may be looking for to feature in this. For example, we have talked about the Nepali nun bhikkhu Anichoen. Then there are these rapping nuns of Korea. Again, in Korea, Buddhism has been losing ground, and many young Koreans say we are free thinkers when their families were Buddhist. Then there's a Bengali Buddhist singer, Nishita Barua, who's I have seen some of the clips. It's very nice to listen to. So there are many areas Buddhist artists would collaborate in expressing Buddhism through artistic forms. The project concept is that it will be an annual week-long event to be held in Nalanda or in the and also in the vicinity, Rajgiri and places around in Bihar. In March, April, or October, November, we are suggesting this because this is the peak pilgrim season as well, and the weather is also good. It will include performances, workshops, seminars, artistic exhibitions, culminating in a final concert, and also we could have opening concert as well. It could be stage. I don't know if it will be allowed to stage some of the events in the ruins of Nalanda. I'm not sure about the law here about using those sites, heritage sites. And we may also consider broadcasting this live through some of the Buddhist television channels in the region. Some of the workshops, just to give you an idea, could be about the Buddhist arts of Nalanda, Buddhist scriptures, Amravati School of Art, Buddhist drawings, Virindubara from Sri Lanka, Tibetan chanting and world music, Mandalay Buddha image, music and Zen. This could be workshops. You can have half-day workshops or whatever during the festival. I'm sure you will have a lot of other ideas as well. Some of the seminars and panel discussions, we may have Buddhist arts of Central Asia, the Mandala Tibetan Buddhist art, Theravada temple art, Silk Route and transmission of Buddhism, especially through the arts and culture. Building of Sukhothai, a lot of Sri Lankans and the Thais don't know how Sri Lankan architects work with Thailand to build Sukhothai. And if you go to Polonnaru and Sukhothai, you see the commonalities of both these cities today. And developing Buddhist gospel music is type of music we were talking about earlier. And like Indic Buddhist art in Angkor Wat, the Indic influence in the arts of Angkor Wat. These are some ideas. Then performers could be like AVC bands from Sri Lanka, Bhutanese Buddhist dances and drumming, Cambodian Buddhist music, Thai Buddhist songs, classical dances. So like, it's just some ideas which came to my mind. Yeah, so that's the idea. Now it's open to you to comment how something like that could be brought together. And of course, I feel if we are to do it, we would initially need the help of the Indian government, most probably the Ministry of Culture, to sponsor it for the first few years until we build a branding for it. So over to you, what do you think? Victor, you have any idea?
Yeah, I can say something about this because in my previous job as in the ministry, I've also funded shows. For instance, it's non-Buddhist, the Miri Jazz Festival, because I ran the Visit Malaysia year 2007, and before that in 2006, I gave some seed money for the Miri Jazz Festival to take place, and it's still running. Of course, the Sarawak Rainforest Festival started much earlier. I didn't have a part in that, but I enjoyed that very much. And that was because I admired the Rainforest Festival so much that I wanted to bring the Penang Music Festival. I also have given them. I think the first time, the first concert was about 2 million ringgit, and then but subsequently, when I'm no longer there, the people who look after the ministry didn't really want to support it, so the whole thing didn't work out. So actually, to have when you have a show, you need to look at the audience. I think part of the audience will actually be local, and the other part will be international, because Malaysia actually is quite central. So you do get people flying all over, and like Sarawak Rainforest Festival, they have built a reputation. And that is why you can even have people coming from Britain coming for a concert like that. But normally, when you have a concert, you might not be able to get the international, so many people. For instance, if you're going to hold it in Nalanda, I guess many of your audience will actually be local Indians. And therefore, you need to have the kind of concert that could actually appeal to the local people as well as, but in order to attract international audience, your program must be something really special for people to fly all the way to India to participate in it. Of course, you can have the side events because you're thinking like the Sarawak Rainforest Festival. You go over there because the place is really magic. You're up in the forest with all the, the native different houses and surrounded by a lake. And in the evening when they light up the forest and the musicians, there are two stages, a big stage and a small stage, and the music is almost continuous. And because the performers see the other people perform, the whole thing is charged like electricity. It's fantastic. You always want to outperform, and so it's electric for 3 days of electrical performance. So if you want to do something in another, you need to have that kind of performance. So about Sarawak Rainforest Festival, the organizer of that actually built up a dossier of different performing groups and then choose the one that they think in terms of composition that can attract the audience. And because Sarawak Rainforest Festival have already got a good reputation, everybody wants to perform. And they're not paid that much, but they still contract. You have to fly them in, the hospitality and all that. So this is actually how you build up a music festival. Now, obviously, when you have it at Nalanda is actually in the middle of, it's not that convenient in terms of logistics. If you have in Delhi, you fly into Delhi, fine. But if you're in Nalanda, you probably have to fly to Delhi because I don't think you can fly to Gaya. The airport will not be open at that time. So you need to turn things in terms of logistics, even for the local people. How do they get to the festival? International people, even more. And your show have to be really something special. Actually, when we were talking about Nalanda Arts Festival, some years ago, I was talking with Asher G, because we had the Swentsang musical. This was done by Malaysian. It was a musical production. The production is as good as anything you see in London. Performance was fantastic. It sung from the start to the end. Whole piece was composed by Yang Wei Han. He himself is a wonderful singer. And in front of you, he recreates Xi'an and how he travels to the Silk Road. And then, of course, in India, Alexander Cunningham and all that, So it's like bilingual, Chinese as well as English. And we thought of actually bringing that to India because that is a show that will actually link up India with China. Because Xuan Chang, as you know, was the one who actually came to India and he admired India. He's like an ambassador, linking up the two continents. And we thought that would be wonderful, but obviously, that is not something that has taken off. But if you have a show like that, yes, you can have, but I'm not sure if you really want to put in Nalanda. It is because maybe rush gear, but still, whatever it is, you need to think in terms of your audience, who is going to come and pay for your show. Of course, in Selangor itself, where we have an equivalent to this, but that's funded by the Selangor government. I think it's been going on for about 6-7 years now, funded by the government, and they have a Buddhist like variety show. It was one of our members who's running the show, and they get people from Japan, from international. So it becomes a variety show. If you have that kind of variety show, believe me, it's not easy to get. Even if the entrance is free, sometimes some of our members, you can able get a few people to see the concert. Concert is excellent, but people are not really that keen. You cannot draw. Want more international audience. So it is actually, what is the kind of show that you want? Who are the audience that you have? And are they prepared to go all the way to see your show? And how do you build your branding? So it's like building up the kind of reputation.
Yeah, no, you mentioned the Sarawak Rainforest Festival. I was there for the first festival, and 10 years later, I was there 2 or 3 years ago. It's vastly different, but first festival was very community oriented. Most of the people were Malaysians who were there. But 10 years later, it's become a big international festival. So that's what I had in mind. If we can build something like that from Nalanda. But the point here is Nalanda logistically is not easy place to get to. There's no airport there. You have to come to Patna, and it's 2 to 3 hours. So that's also one of the problems to attract the international audience. Yeah.
So a lot of
No, that's what we thought. Yeah,
Yeah, I was speaking. Excuse me.
no, after him.
A lot of thing what Datuk say that what I wanted to say have been said by Datuk already, Victor. But I want to add a little point more. It seemed to me you think to want to attract the youth in particular, and I think it's a very good idea, and this is the kind of thing which really needs to happen. But for attracting the youth, you have to think of what you offer there, what attracts them really, and I think it's going to be a little bit complicated because then other people might not be so happy about what attracts the youth. So I would suggest, I think it is a very good idea to have it in Rajli or Nalanda on the long term, but I would not start there. I would try to even the way to have it somewhere where it is accessible first, and then establish a little bit of name and slowly go to broadening, have a more mainstream thing the first time and a little bit more progressive the second time, and the third time you make it in Nalanda completely flipped out if you want. But it's going to be a long way, and it needs a lot of planning and thinking and strategizing. That's all I have to say. But very good idea. I can give you now.
Thank you. So my first question was about the name of Nalanda Art Music Festival. The second point is we already have many festivals in India. Arunaji have Buddhist Film Festival. We work many years. Myself, I had the Spiritual Theatre Festival and Sacred Film Festival, Sacred Festival. So why IBC not found them with the government? Because beautiful concept already exists. Why create something new? And the oldest festivals, they travel. Sometimes South India, other places of the Buddhist communities. Why we have to create new? Why not support existing ones? Buddhist Film Festival and other, there is festivals in South India. Why you don't run the film festival? See, because she doesn't have a fun. Yes. Brilliant in what contents? Who will go there? Who will go? Whom you will attract? It's not a personal thing. I know, but there is a no.
Yeah. Can you give the mic to? Can you bring that festival and this together?
I think so. I think if you were to have a festival in Nalanda of the arts, which will include cinema, music, dance, theatre, painting, and then music at night, I think it'd be a wonderful idea. And a lot of people anyway go to Nalanda to visit Nalanda. So if once a year there were a big festival like that, I think it would be a wonderful idea. Don't you? What do you think? No, I'm talking to you. No, I am talking to you.
No, I was just breathing and smiling. I wasn't trying to speak right now, but since the question is asked, I think in principle I like the idea, but I haven't really formulated my ideas. I feel there is an issue of location. I think the idea of having a cultural and arts festival around the Buddhistic culture is very important, and I think that's partly what we've been sharing over the last 2 days here, and it is one way of popularizing Buddhism. And when you ask the question about whether you bring images in the midst of sutras, that's part of it. It's a sort of way of how do we communicate to a larger audience in India and of course abroad. I like the idea and the purpose of doing it in India under the auspices of something like the IBC, because I feel that we need to project into the world the Indian roots of Buddhism. So and in a way which is beyond just the texts and the places. But I haven't really formulated I'm hearing Dr. Victor Wee's points, and I think they're quite valid in terms of location, accessibility. The festivals that have become extremely good have become very popular. I used to be involved in a festival called the Glastonbury Fair in England. I was there in the 1980s, and we used to have very few people. It was just a small fair on somebody's field, and we used to do dance festivals. And now it's become like this mega festival. But it's like the biggest festival in England now. And then we had a green field, and we had now meditate. I mean, I wasn't interested in Buddhism at that time, so I was more interested in ecology. So we had a green field, we had teepees, and now we have a whole meditation element in that festival. And Glastonbury is also nowhere, but it had an English youth public, and we had very big bands. So it's a very different culture. It's like getting the pop bands, and so I think this would be a slightly esoteric, or the interest base would be much smaller. So when at that time also we had things like dance festival or something else, it had a smaller public. So I think the idea is very good. It has to be thought through, which I'm just thinking through right now. Whether and the audience, I know the audience, local audience in Rajgir and Nalanda. There's been a Rajgir festival, Buddhist festival, going on for some time. Sort of festival. It's very nobody's really going to it. The Japanese have been funding it for some time, and the local population is really not interested at all. It's not a very interest in this sort of thing. So, I think we have to choose a place which is useful. I think Nalanda, because we have good contacts, but if it's something like Nagpur, for example, Nagpur may have more interest because there's already a slightly Buddhistic culture there. Or a place like Ladakh, where international people might come because it's again, or Sikkim, where there's a Buddhistic culture and local people may be interested. So that in itself would have a lot of local buy-in, and you need that. If you don't have the local buy-in, then it becomes like then you need a lot of money to advertise, and then you have the location like the Sarawak. The rainforest. The rainforest has a romantic imaging, and it's wonderful, just good rainforest. So I think we have to think it through. I think the principle of it is very good. I think the locationing it in India as a start is good. I think it's a very good offering of the IVC, which brings all of us together. And so you bring in talks and from history to to psychology. You bring in the arts, and you bring. And I think it becomes slowly will start developing as it has with the Glastonbury Festival. It's developed its own character. So I would definitely encourage it. It's just that we have to just look at location, and I think the Indian government would probably fund it too. Thank you.
So I'd like to share an experience of a festival which we organized 2 years back, which was a great success. I mentioned that I work with Deer Park Institute, which is a project of the Siddhartha's Intent Society. I'm one of the board members. And Siddhartha's Intent Society, in collaboration with another foundation, Vana Foundation, which also organizes teachings by His Holiness and other teachers on Indian mind traditions and Buddhism, we organized in Bodh Gaya, in the compound of the Mahabodhi temple within the inner circle, a festival of arts, music, Buddhist teachings, talks, history, and an entertainment program. Other than the cultural arts and music
in Bodh Gaya.
In Bodh Gaya, in the Mahabodhi temple, within the walls of the Mahabodhi temple, the compound
I do want to propose Bodh Gaya because I thought it may not go well with the spirituality of the place. Having a
she was also present, I think, and it has nothing to do. You can do it. It's possible. And in case you do not know, the Mahabodhi temple is not even a national monument. It is not even a protected monument under the state of Bihar. It is only with the BTMC, the Bodh Gaya Temple Management Committee. So it is said that the greatest pilgrim place of Buddhism in the world, the only one place that we can call really the place, is not even declared a national monument by our government. One second, but I'm not on that. Let's talk about the festival. So we had, I think, about easily 800 to 1,000 people. It was a 3-day festival, 2.5 days. In the evening, we had a separate dinner and entertainment program for those who the invitation was by registration over email. We didn't spend anything on advertising except printing of posters which were then put up in some Buddhist institutes, on the internet, by email. We have a huge mailing list. Vana had a mailing list. And we did this. The difference is, our tagline was Indians remembering an Indian from the past. It was not an international. There were many people who came from abroad, including performers, opera singers, but it was not an international festival across nations. So it was not as if, Thai is represented by this and Laos by this and so on. It was an Indian expression of devotion to the Buddha, in which many other foreigners participated.
Actually, we could still have the Nalanda Arts Festival in Bodh Gaya, rather than, because Bodh Gaya is logistically easier
Now,
to reach.
just one little announcement. All of you are invited, because this time there is no registration. Same place, Bodh Gaya, November 16th, 17th, 18th, this year.
You're having the arts in the festival.
I beg your pardon?
You're having the same festival.
We're having the same thing, yes, again. I mean, last year we didn't have it. Once in 2 years we may do. So you're all invited. It's November 16th, 17th, 18th. When you can just go on the website later on, siddharthafestival.org. So this is an example of a successful festival. But no government funding. We didn't even ask the government. We raised our own funds.
I second what Aspi is saying, really. I think what they've done is great. It's an idea whose time has come, and they did it. What I heard about it from my friends, it is very successful, very good initiative, and I think locationally more attractive than Nalanda.
Access-wise, it's equally difficult. You still have to fly or take a train to Patna or Varanasi. And then instead of going from there to Nalanda, you go to Bodh Gaya. In imaging is there, and Gaya airport is, in fact, that time Gaya airport had closed down that 2 years back for renovation. But I have been to Bodh Gaya since, through flying to Gaya. So that is open now. So it's actually more accessible. From Gaya to Bodh Gaya is just about, I don't know, half an hour by.
See, now another location could be Saranath, because it's Varanasi has a bigger international airport.
Yeah,
Sarnath, international connections.
Sarnath will be to Varanasi what Bodh Gaya is to Gaya. So yeah.
Okay, so you want? Okay.
I saw your presentation, and conceptually it is very good. I'm yet to join there, and after joining and getting settled, I'll certainly extend all possible help. Of course, there are some technical problems that we have to get approval from the government of India and all that, so that part will be seen. So far as reaching Nalanda is concerned, it is about 90 to 95 kilometers from Patna, and there are a number of flights for Patna. Of course, Gaya, we don't find many regular flights, but distance-wise from Bodh Gaya or from Patna must be almost equal to Nalanda, and road condition is also very good. So we are not supposed to get down by flight at Varanasi. No need of going there, Varanasi. We can go to Patna for reaching to Nalanda. And Nalanda is a brand name in the film. Everybody, the whole world knows what is Nalanda and why Nalanda was famous. So, of course, there are festivals at Rajgir. Rajgir's festival is there. Once 1998 or 1999, I don't remember the exact year, this Bodh Gaya festival also began, but later on it became fiasco because of it was under the control of the government of Bihar. It could not succeed. I don't know what the latest position. I'm not sure, but I'm very happy that our friend was telling that again something going to happen in November. That's very fine. Okay, that will be better. That will be better. So I found it very nice conceptually. We have to work very hard how to materialize it. And in the beginning, there may be very few people, but nothing to get disheartened. It may grow and grow. So I welcome this idea, and let us work on that.
Thank you very much. So we'll take you up on it, and we'll yeah, Madhusri.
As we are talking about this Nalanda Arts and Music Festival in a very large scale, so I think we need the support of Ministry of Culture. And another thing is that usually we arrange small festivals in a small scale, localized festivals. There we see that if we invite some renowned artist along with the grassroots level artist, so it gets popularized. We get a good means a huge audience for that. So we can do that. Some popular artists, maybe we can tell them that you do something on Buddhist themes, on Buddhist essence. Like there's a international band, Indian Ocean. I think maybe all of us have heard of that, Indian Ocean, and they have this Buddhist music in their bands. So we can invite them and tell them to present something like that. And as our sister was telling, that to support already existing the festivals. So this can be a festival which will have all the art forms under one roof. Like we can have the fashion shows also, because we need to engage the young people. Fashion show means not that fashion show we generally see over television or on the sets, but the fashion show will reveal all the historic significant characters, historic characters like Bimbisara, Ashoka, Nagarjuna. They can be dressed like that and tell something about these characters, so that to make this event interesting.
Okay, thank you. So, yeah, because the original inspiration and idea I got was from the Rainforest Music Festival I went to in Malaysia. Because Sarawak itself is not an easy place to get into, because it's on the other part of Malaysia, west of Malaysia, and you have to go to Cochin, and even if you get a visa to go to Malaysia, it's not valid to go to West Asia, Malaysia, isn't it? Still, you, I can remember when you go to, when we land in Sarawak, they check your passports again. You have to go through some sort of. So with all that, they were able to build this festival up into an international, very popular international festival. So that's why I thought we could do it in Nalanda. But crucial thing is we need funding support initially. I don't think Rainforest Music Festival also got Malaysian government support, I think, initially. But it's very crucial thing is we need the Indian government backing at the beginning, at least for the first 3 years until we get it branded and have it in a economically viable platform.
Yes, if I might say, mention about Rainforest Festival, because I know of that festival fairly well. It started as a wonderful idea of getting people playing native instruments from Peru, from Africa, and meeting in the forest, putting up a performance. There was a little bit of government support, but because the festival have actually grown, and in fact, I think they have run it for 3 nights. On an average night, you get about 5,000 people, and the final night, which is on Sunday, you have a much bigger crowd. So altogether, you could have something like 12,000 people coming for the festival. That means 2 days or 3 days performance. It can go up to 15,000. But the festival is very place sensitive, because I remember that when I was in tourism ministry, they were toying with the idea of bringing the festival closer to Kuching. Kuching is the capital. This festival is actually out on the other side, and in fact, from Kuching to that Dumai, I think Dumai, you need to commute, and that place itself did not have a lot of hotels. And when you get international participants coming in, the problem is they would have to stay in Kuching and commute. So they thought about, how about having it inside the Kuching itself? Wouldn't work. So it's very place sensitive. Now you mentioned about having the Nalanda Arts Festival amongst the in the Nalanda University itself, I would say that that's not a good idea because in terms of sustainability, in terms of preserving, world heritage, I think you get into a lot of trouble.
I don't think the government would allow it either.
You get into a lot of trouble. Yes, yes. But you need to have somebody who's really experienced. And in the Sarawak Rainforest Festival, they had somebody who's really experienced, an expert who travels around the world, listening, going for performance, and selecting the key performance to make it work. But of course, later on they changed the event manager, so therefore it becomes a bit more jazzy and all that, which actually departed from the original concept. But you have some government funding with the idea of growing it into a brand, and then by which time Sarawak Rainforest Festival already have people book ahead 1 year ahead in order to go for the next year's show. Okay.
Okay. One more we take.
Okay, can I confirm that your target audience are the youth, and you want to introduce this through this festival, introduce Buddhism to the youth?
No, not necessarily youth.
Okay. What's your target
youth
audience?
could be a major component, but it's not necessarily purely directed at youth audience.
Okay, but what are your target audience? Who are you targeting with this festival?
The target audience would, what do you call, target audience would be both Buddhists and non-Buddhists as well.
Okay, so of all age and age
Yeah,
group.
who are interested in culture.
Okay, because that could make it a bit wide. And what I wanted to caution is, I don't know who's the youngest person here, but I think most of us are quite old. And if you are targeting at the youth, it would be better to get some youth involved, because we have no idea what they want. I mean, I have two girls, they are 10 and 7, and I actually follow popular music through them now, because I need to hear what they're hearing, and they will and what the song I hear. So what I'm trying to say is, if we are doing such a festival, we have to be very targeted. Who are you want to target, and what are the audience sets, etc. The Rainforest Festival, I think they're very clear what are the target audience. It's people who want music in the kind of areas. So I think the art and music festival, I strongly support it, and I'll see how I can help you. I think we need to be very clear who are the target audience, and if youth are involved, then we need young people to be part of the curation process. And young people, they must be given room to fail, to make mistake. We don't want a situation and they make some mistake. Oh no, that's not Buddhistic, and then they'll run away and never come back again. So what I say is that the whole curation process need to be also very much clear, with guidelines and policies, and also understanding of how the whole thing should be evolved. So really, I think this is quite a big venture that you probably need to set up a team to look at it very carefully. Yeah.
Okay, thank you very much. So Madhusri wants to present something, so we have another 10 minutes to do it. So, okay, so we end this segment with the agreement basically that we should look at it, study it carefully. We'll be forming a team with Professor and Madhusri and a number of us to look at this more in detail, how we can get it together and proceed. And of course, we'll keep you informed once we come up with some ideas. When Roldam appear, he's also there. Will be there. So, yeah, Madhusri, are you? Okay. Also, if you have any other ideas for cultural activity, you feel free to send out the ideas to Ashok or me. We could then pass it on to the IBC Secretariat to have a look at.
We are going to see some of the glimpses of dance theatre, Praner Pradeep, which means light of inner self. This has been presented in the last Vesak Day celebration in front of our Honorable Prime Minister Narendra Modi ji. And this was organized by the Ministry of Culture and IBC. Thank you.
Praner Pradeep, the light of inner self.
They need me to show them a way out of the slimy veils of the ancient shackles. Mother, I need to reach the world. আমারে ছাড়িয়া দিন মা, বিনা দুঃখ শোকে শাখা হতেছ তো পত্র সম।
Come over to me, my beloved. Let me caress your tongues and tie them into a neat bow. My daughter, teach the world the true sense of human faith. Let the new religion rise.
Women have left their home, the shelter that they once set. Women in red robes are in their quest to find the path of enlightenment. Oh Lord
Buddha, dry up the flood of tears that you rain on women from door to door. He Mahapurush, তুমি ওদের শান্তি দাও।
আগমনের কানে ঘুরে আইরে আমার সুপ্ত পাতার গানে ঢোল নিবে We are on the path of invocation of Lord Buddha.
But the order is to stop the invocation.
How is such a hindrance right at the door, sister? Don't you cry, Srimati Didi. Can't we worship the Lord without offerings or prayer?
So you disobey the king's order as well. Such is your audacity.
The scepter cannot rule our heart. We have found the divine within ourselves. Will you dance? Your Highness. Yes, I will. My dance will be my offering to Lord Buddha.
we now come to the closing of the conference. I